Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to our Intuitive Creators Spotlight. Today we have a very special episode with Adria. She is a guide, a mentor, a coach, a teacher, and she has an abundance of experience, expertise, and knowledge that she came here to share with us, and stories that bring so much wisdom. I just love listening to her. I love listening to everything that she has to share. And I can't wait to bring all of this beauty here with you. Welcome, Adria. I'm so happy to see you here. And I know we had a conversation earlier before we started this chat, this interview. And I am looking forward to listening to more of your wisdom here in this episode. Welcome, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I love being here with you. I love sharing wisdom with you, and I love hearing yours as well. So I feel like we could talk forever. This is great.
This is so true because I would just like lose track of time when we would start the conversation. And this is magical, isn't it? Because I feel like we would start like a thought, a conversation, and then there will be another one that will come through and they're like, oh, okay, so I want to know more about this and this. And it's just exciting, isn't it, when we can connect with people like that and feel so comfortable and so at ease because we are mirrors to each other, aren't we?
Yes, yes, we are. I live
We
for
really
this.
We really are. Adria, I know that you have been through quite a journey in your lifetime, and you've connected a lot with the movement aspect of life when it comes to moving body, moving your energy. And now you are embracing so much more that you will be sharing more with the world as well. Would you like to talk more about your personal journey and what inspired you to embrace this path?
Wow. Thank you so much. I don't even know where to start, really, I guess. I mean, just always feeling a connection to spirit and just always being curious about, the world beyond the physical, beyond what we see. Um, and just having that curiosity my whole life, I think has really been such a beautiful invitation for me to just ask more questions. And, there's that period of adolescence where it's kind of like the outer world has so much effect on who we are, and in that sense we kind of lose ourselves. So I went through that definitely. um, that journey actually took me into alcohol and drug abuse for 20 years. I just recently became sober actually 2.5 years ago, and that was like, oh my God, I wouldn't change it. It's the best feeling. It's the best feeling to like have this connection again, to like feel spirit move through me. And alcohol was like a lot of disconnection and a lot of separation. Even understanding the illusion of separation, I was very much felt very separate from myself. And yeah, yeah, it's just that's a whole journey and a whole story that I know a lot of people can probably resonate with. And I mean, people reach out to me a lot about, their struggles with alcohol, and um, I'm here for that support in any way that I can offer. But what else? What else to touch on? I mean, I guess the transition from like my career path, working as like a personal trainer, so in like the movement and um, the physical aspects of this world. And so what I'm recognizing is like my initial draw towards working in that industry is not only because naturally I'm athletic, and I do feel very connected to my body, but it was in a very distorted way from the beginning. It was because I didn't love myself. I didn't like what I saw. I wanted to change who I was. So I was exercising from a place of, it wasn't self-love. Like the energy was like a negative energy I was carrying forward. And I noticed that with a lot of people that I was training as well, as this like lack of love for ourselves that we were trying to be something different to then love ourselves. Conditional love,
Mhm.
right? And so, um, you know, things really shifted actually when someone introduced the book to me, Becoming Supernatural. It's actually right here. This book by Joe
Wow.
Dispenza. It was back in, I think, 2018, and someone introduced that book to me, and it just like blew my mind. And it talks about how we have an effect on the outer world, how like our inner beliefs are the way that we perceive ourselves and the beliefs that we hold really do affect the world around us. And so then I started becoming more curious about my inner world. And that's like the journey of self discovery and what is called the hero's journey. And, I went on that whole exploration. That's where I became sober. That's when I just started experiencing relationships, like narcissistic relationships, and just seeing how the outer world was showing me what my inner beliefs were. The
Mm.
outer world was showing me my lack of self-worth because I was allowing someone else to decide my worth. And it just helped me become aware of the energy that I was holding within my body. It allowed me to then speak to those energies and have a conversation with, like, what do I need to learn from you? Like, why am I experiencing this discomfort, this pain, this XYZ. And then, that's like the journey. That's the journey of just discovering who I am and aligning with who we all really are is love,
Mm.
and aligning with love by inviting more love into the places that are of lack and of doubt and guilt and shame and judgment and all of those lower vibrations. And then after going through that process, I just feel so lit up about it and the transformation I've witnessed within myself. I've called, I guess, people into my life who see that in me and are looking for that within themselves. And so I'm
Mm.
able to guide them through, we resonate with each other through similar experiences, through emotional bonds. So I'm able to, you know, provide my perspective on my experience and see how that resonates with them to transform their perspective and their experience and transform their own energies into becoming more love and moving from a place of self-love
I love it.
unconditionally.
And it's interesting how, you mentioned that somebody introduced you to this book. They shared this book with you, and it sounds like many other things, events started to happen around you. But clearly, on the energetical level, you were ready for this transformation. So, what would you say were some of the big lessons that your soul had to learn during that time between your like teenage years and that moment when you had to kind of start giving up and let that chapter go? What do you feel were some of the biggest lessons that you had to learn?
Oh, I love that. The thing that's coming to me most is to look within. It's like it was just such, I felt so graspy, like I was grasping for information outside of myself. And that feels natural, it does. But and so I guess I wouldn't want to change it. It's just now seeing how, oh, all of the answers are actually within me. And when I take time to connect to spirit and come into stillness and silence, I receive what it is that I need in that moment. And I think that's the biggest lesson, is to slow down and come into stillness. Because we are these like busy bodies, and we are in this world that is like do, go, go, go. And that's a very masculine energy. And so I find, the lack of the collective is this feminine energy, which is like to allow ourselves to flow with, nature and cycles and the rhythm. And how do we attune to that is by slowing down to, feel it, to actually invite um, like the essence of spirit into our heart. And so we're kind of moving from our brain into our heart. And for me, that has been a really big, beautiful lesson, is to connect more in with my heart.
Oh, this is so beautiful. And it is, yes, like you said, it's natural to want to know information or to look for information around us. But it's also so important to understand that we have so many answers already within ourselves. And it's only when we combine the two, the
Mhm.
what's inside with what we receive, and then we alchemize it in a way that feels aligned with us. That's when it feels good. um, but there is something that I hear often when like people go from, say, a period of maybe like you mentioned, alcohol or overeating or some other stuff, and they want to move forward towards a new chapter, and then they would say that I need to replace maybe the alcohol or the food with something else. Was that the case for you? Would you say this is necessary to replace something like that with something new in order to move forward?
Ooh, interesting. Spicy question. Because I did. I connected with the spirit of cannabis.
Mhm,
So when I was going sober, first of all, it was challenging because it was the habit of drinking. And so I actually drank so much tonic water in that period of time. Tonic water really just helped because it kind of felt like a drink. It felt like an alcoholic beverage, but I wasn't getting drunk, which was
mhm,
actually really refreshing. Um, but yeah, I switched into smoking cannabis. I already did smoke a little bit, but what cannabis does is it brings me in tune with nature more. So I
mhm,
found that when I would smoke cannabis, I would want to drink water, I would want to eat fruit, I would want to slow down. And so it really helped me transition, really. It was like a totally different energy from alcohol. And I worked with cannabis, played with cannabis for a while, actually. It's only recently that I've been kind of stepping away and recognizing, I think the overuse of it and how cannabis as a medicine is really beautiful. I enjoy her, sparingly, but it's something that's like, again, easy to get it carried away with because of that, hit of like dopamine, that deeper connection, that altered state, right? That altered
mhm,
state essentially. Um, so that really helped. And yeah, I can go into more about that, but
mhm.
again.
So ultimately, would you say that to help with a transition like that, it's okay to look for something that can be a more positive, can have a more positive impact. Like you said, you transition to like a tonic water or something like that. It's okay to look for that. Or what kind of advice would you give to someone who maybe is going through this and they're like, okay, what else can I do to just embrace a new, more positive chapter, one where I would feel more free?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's different for everybody, right? I
Mhm.
do think that bringing something else in, even if it's an activity like
Yeah.
dancing, replacing, bringing more dancing, inviting something into your life that you're curious about and that brings you joy. I think for me, cannabis helped me like remember my spiritual connection, and that's really what I wanted. So that really, and it honestly helped me move my body more and just, I'm not like saying go out and smoke cannabis. I can see how you have to be mindful of like what it is that you're doing. I was aware that I was replacing one thing with another, and I was aware that I needed that in that moment. And I'm aware as to how it's been, you know, the addiction of that has been carried with me. That's why I've been taking steps away from it and introducing who I am without any altered state to discover and remember that part of me.
Mm.
So it's all a journey. And I think it's our awareness that really creates, you know, creates the journey that we're
Yeah.
looking for. Is like the awareness that we have, the kindness that we can give to ourselves through the process, because there's no comparison as to what somebody else's journey looks like and what your own journey looks like, but we tend to be very hard on ourselves and have
Mhm.
these expectations of what it should look like. And I believe that we just need to honor ourselves in our journey and forgive ourselves, bring compassion release the guilt. There's a lot of guilt that we hold. And I think that this plays into just a whole collective thing, the collective being addicted to suffering. And that's a whole other rabbit hole I could go into.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you empathize a lot in your messages, the connection between humanity and nature. And I know that you talk a lot about that in your messages. Why would you say this is important?
Mm.
Why is it important
Ooh,
for the
ooh.
collective?
I love that. Because again, I go back to, I like to zoom out and I just see how the collective is functioning. And so it seems like, we're running in a patriarchy, in a lot of masculine energy. And that is like, very mental, and it feels like a disconnection from feelings, from the
Mm,
body, from which is like the earth, the mother nature, which we are made of mother nature. And so connecting into mother nature is connecting into the feminine energy and is awakening that within the collective. So I love to like invite that. And I do feel like it's inevitable. I feel like we're here as a part of the change, and there's nothing that we, let's say, have to do. I feel like, it's done, right? We're just like,
mhm,
we're literally experiencing what that change is like. And it is coming into the heart. It is connecting more with nature. It is inviting more feminine energy that's been suppressed for so long, and not to be a victim about it, recognizing victim consciousness. It just is obvious. The outer world is reflecting back to us what we are holding within. And so I believe that the change starts with each individual, with us going, because it makes sense. If you change aspects of yourself and you learn how to love yourself more, that reflects out to the people that are around you. And then they're feeling your love more. And then it awakens a love within them. And then their people. And it just ripples out like that. And this is how we are creating the change. And I love
mm.
it.
So true, because we will go through that growth. And I mentioned this so many times that when we do heal ourselves, we heal our lineage as well, and generations before and generations that will come after us. But we also heal the community where we're in. We inspire as well. And if every single person would embrace their beautiful energy more and share it as it is more, we would, just feel that love around us more too. And I know you mentioned about, the thoughts and the masculine or the patriarchy that we live in, but we also know that thoughts generate a lot of emotions if we let them to, right?
Mhm.
How would you say you integrated in your own life the idea that thoughts generate emotions? And I know that you mentioned about the awareness part. Okay, we need to be aware. But how did you work with this aspect? Like thoughts generate emotions if you let them to. How did you integrate that in your daily life?
Ooh, I love that. Well, I learned through my journey how to become the witness, and how to really be the observer of emotions that flow through us. So it's like we don't need to necessarily identify with them, but we are witnessing them. And I learned this through an experience where I lived with this guy who was very, very aggressive, and he would just yell, and he was like, maybe reflecting back some suppressed anger I had within myself. But though his way of communicating was, he would get angry and he would yell and he would say all of these horrible, horrible things. And my first like phase was to do what I saw my mother do, was to just shut off, to block it out, to just like, I literally would go numb, and it would, like, it was bouncing off of me. And I realized that that was just like enabling. You would just continue to go on. And I wasn't like speaking any type of my truth. I just allowed it to happen. And then so I tried another approach where I was like, what if I meet him where he's at and I yell right back at him, And I met him with this anger the next time that happened. And that absolutely did not work. Like I wanted to, my fist curled up and I wanted to like punch him, it was horrible. And And like he left screaming, and then I would like went and screamed outside. And instantly I thought about children. I was like, imagine children witnessing this. Like what a horrible, sad experience. And I just was like, this is not it, you know, because you think that it's it because it feels really good, because that's what the anger wants. The anger's like, yeah, use me.
Mhm.
But it didn't. I knew it wasn't it. So then the next time, you know, I realized, okay, so this is my emotions. I gave him so much of like an emotional connection. I was just like emotionally attached to what his narrative was and what he was saying. And the next time I saw this, I could tell that he was like perpetuating and he wanted to like stir me. He wanted to get me going. And I just like took a breath and actually like I put my fingers together like this. And I just like felt the energy kind of disconnect where I knew that I didn't need to engage emotionally. I could hear him and I could say, that's your perspective and that's how you want to look at life. Good for you. I disagree. And it was so beautiful. I felt like all of these checks going off, like spirit was like ding ding ding, you passed the test. And so and so, you know, that situation ended up ending, and now I see that when, you know, certain energies are flowing through, you know, certain beliefs, it's like I like to view them as something that isn't really a part of me, right? Like I said, so it's like I'm witnessing it. And then I allow myself to have a conversation with that energy. So an example is like yesterday I was feeling irritated and I could feel like the irritation in my body, and then I was like, okay, irritation, like I see you. I feel you here. I'm like, you know, there's this beautiful I know I'm going off a little bit, but there's this beautiful um shaman Durek. He gave this beautiful example of how to kind of communicate with these energies that just want to go home to the light. Like
Mhm.
everything is love originally. And so these beings, these words, which hold vibrations, which are consciousnesses, which are beings and energies and spirits, they want to be the love that they aren't. So it's like we are the facilitators to bring them back into love. And so looking at irritation as this like energy, I'm like, okay, you know, do you need my help going home to the light? And I can have this conversation and feel it being like, yes, I do. And it's literally this conversation where I'm like, okay, you know, I'm going to send you home and transform you into love with my powers. Is there a message that you would like to share with me before you go? And there's this communication that I experience, and I feel my body coming into peace. I feel myself coming into ease. I'm not ignoring and putting off the irritation. I'm engaging with it. I'm interacting with it. I'm communing with it. And
Mm.
that is like a very powerful position to be in, because it gives me my it gives me my power, my like control over a situation, control through these like, I don't know, emotional turbulences that life is. And we are
Mhm.
here to, you know, be that like pillar and the pillar of
Mm.
love.
Yeah, and if you think about it, imagine these emotions, they're coming, they're so excited to be shared. Irritation, anger, and everything. They're like, oh, I'm here. Yeah, just let's play. And imagine rejecting that. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what that energy is, but it's coming to you, and then you're like, oh, go away. I'm just gonna like do something or whatever, to just push you away and no, don't come back to me ever. And what happens when we reject anything really? That becomes bigger and even angrier and even more irritated. And then how do you
Yeah.
deal with that? And so it
Mhm.
it it builds up from there. So it's so much better to have like step into that maturity, if you wish, and just have a conversation with these emotions. Because then what happens is like you're also learning so much, as you said, from the messages that come back, because it can give like important information about maybe that moment, the relationship, your
Mhm.
own relationship with yourself. And that is so, so valuable. So As I mentioned about relationships here, how would you say your relationships in general changed as you went from one stage to another of your own journey or growth?
hmm I mean, it's kind of, it feels like magic, because it feels so natural how people who weren't really maybe aligned with like my highest self just kind of started fading, and people who are more resonant with my current state of energy started coming into my life. So it just feels like a natural process where it's like, that these people who played these roles to bring these energies into my life, when I transform the energy, they are no longer maybe needed in my life. And then other people come in to bring different things. So it feels really beautiful, like a natural process where in that way, I'm not in control. Like nature, spirit is in control. And I love it. It keeps it kind of spontaneous and like, oh, who's coming through next?
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. And of course, it's interesting to see who comes next into your life. But then once that person comes into your life, you're like, ah, okay, I understand why this connection is happening now because of like the growth that you were doing and the things that maybe you were looking at in that moment. How would you say you recognize these things? So say, for example, if you go on to study something new, and then someone is coming in to give you a message or to have some sort of conversation, how do you recognize that that is the message for you or that is the connection you have to experience now?
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, I don't always recognize what the message is, or, I mean, sometimes it's, I'm still working through some relationships with people that I haven't really discovered what the answers are.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's where patience and trust and surrender come in, because I can definitely have a mindset of asking too many questions where I'm just like constantly analytical and breaking things down. And that's not helpful either. It's like,
Mhm.
when do I fall into a place of just seeing, let me see how this unfolds?
Mm.
Let me just like allow this to unfold. And I'm grateful that I don't have anymore a lot of like negative energies or relationships that feel to hold me down. I've actually went through a lot of processing when I was in Costa Rica, and it's not necessarily like these people. I'm not putting the blame on them. I'm actually grateful for all of the people that came into my life that showed me really challenging times, because I love to think of it like as these soul contracts that we made before coming into this human body. Is like I came to experience worthiness, like who's going to help me discover my worth. And this beautiful soul sister is like, I'm going to like strip you, make it seem like I'm stripping you of that, so you can really come into your power and recognize that you are the one that gets to decide. And it's like,
Mm.
that's a hard thing to experience in this human world, when it
Mhm.
doesn't feel like love, but it all comes from love. And
Mhm.
that's where I'm at now, where I'm really grateful to be, because I was in a lot of blame. I was in a lot of like, you did this to me. And now I'm in a very grateful place where I have so much love for
Oh, I love
humanity.
this.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful that you shared this because I was like everywhere you were sharing, I was like, yeah, because yeah, we go through physical pain in life, at some point in our lives. Maybe there are people who never experienced it, but there are in this human experience, there is sometimes it can happen that we go through heartbreak, through disappointment, through so much like pain. But then, like you said, when you look at it as like, okay, so this person, this relationship, they came into my life so that I can learn something from it. It is such a beautiful place to be in because then it opens us up to forgiveness, right? And love and also self-love. What would you say? What role self-love plays into our connection with the world?
Ugh, everything,
Mm,
everything. I mean, Jesus is an example of like the ultimate self-love and an example of what we're all capable of. And I feel, Christ consciousness resides in the heart. And it's actually, I say it, I mean life, this mission is about coming into the heart. It's about taking these like heavenly energies, these cosmic energies, and bringing them into the heart, and these earthly energies and bringing them into the heart. So we are communing this like as above, so below. And our role as humans is to express that through the heart. And so when we can find all of the love for ourselves, then we can be examples of that, shine that, and create the change. Like I said, I feel it's already happening because I love to look into the future and see it as already being done. And then that kind of takes pressure away of having to do something
mm,
because we already are. It's so interesting how that works. It's like the idea of acceptance. I think I'm going off right now, but the idea of acceptance is like, you know, I think I'm going to say we because it feels very general to have this understanding of acceptance being like, oh, well, then you're just a doormat, or then you're just like, letting things that aren't great happen. But when we accept something, it releases resistance, which
mhm,
then actually allows for change to happen. And it's
mhm,
just so it's so magical. And I feel like this is what a lot of self-love is being asked is to accept the parts of us that we don't like, that we want to change, which feels the most challenging. Like, how do
mhm,
you accept some of the most evil people in the world? How do you love them? It's like recognizing that we all have that capability within us. And that's a really hard concept to grasp. That's a really big pill to swallow because immediately I want to be like, no, I could never.
Yeah, but then when we embrace that, it feels so light and easy. And also, when we are resistant to that lesson that we are learning in that experience, usually what happens is like, okay, that situation will like go away quickly, like put a like a patch on something, but then similar ones will come back until we learn what we're meant to learn.
Yeah. Mhm.
And
I really
that's where you hear people asking themselves, like, why is this happening again and again and again? Maybe there is a lesson that
Mhm.
is not being embraced,
Oh my
and
God.
it's so much like connected with everything that you said and self-love and how important that is to come from within. Would you say do you have a favorite practice or a ritual or technique that you have in your life or in your daily
Mhm.
routine that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah. Well, a few things. I wanted to touch on, how I think like what you said about accepting and loving parts of ourselves. I don't remember exactly what you said now because I just wanted to touch on it, but it was this book that I read called Radical Forgiveness that's been really life changing. Um, and something that I like to do is like we're all essentially reparenting ourselves, and so there's like the inner child, these inner children versions of us that have been, denied or shut down, or they're just waiting for our love and attention. And I believe that we have the power to do that in the now. And so one of my practices has been to meet these inner children. This, I say children because there's many different ages and stages of my inner child that have experienced, you know um, separation and suppression and being shut down and all of those things, not being heard and seen. And I had this practice where every morning I would put my hand on my heart and I would connect into my soul, to my inner child in this moment, and ask, what is it that you need of me right now? And I did this for 2 weeks every day, and it was so funny, the things that would come up. One of the things would be like, put on a puppet show. And I'm like, a puppet show? I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I want you to put on a puppet show. So I'd put socks on each one of my hands and I literally was doing this. And then I would go out and like talk to the plants and I would laugh. And I just felt like I validated that inner part of me that wanted to have that experience one day that was told, no, I don't want to play with you. I played with that version of me. One day it was like jumping jacks. One day it was like making funny faces in the mirror and then drawing them out. And I witnessed myself go through different stages and ages of myself as an inner child, where I actually healed in the moment those aspects of me. And as the 2 weeks went on, later on, it started to become more of like the older version of me. So then every morning it was like dancing. I want you to dance. And then it just kept turning into dance and movement, dance and movement. And I was like, wow, I really worked through building trust with my inner child by saying yes to what was being asked of me in that moment. And
Wow.
so that really has been a beautiful practice for me. And another practice that I have towards loving people who I feel, you know, do wrong and hurtful things is I like to imagine and embody myself as the Divine Mother and look at these people as if they're their children themselves and they did not receive the love that they needed in that moment. And I actually imagine myself holding them and nurturing them. And it's so beautiful. It could bring me to tears because it feels so loving to love these people who I don't see that they've had that type of
Mhm.
love, and I get to energetically provide that. And it feels like such a healing ritual, I guess, a healing practice is to really embody the Divine Mother and just give love, because giving love doesn't feel like something that I will be drained of. I feel constantly nourished by my
Mhm.
connection to spirit and my connection to nature. Like these plants, they love feeding us. They
Yep.
love, I feel them wanting to give, they want
Mhm.
to give to us. And so when I imagine nature, it's just constantly replenishing me, I am able to continue to give love.
Mm. Absolutely. And when we know that love is not something that comes in like a little drop, I'm gonna give you just a little bit.
No,
It's
thank
there. We can channel it all the time. And I so agree with you that the plants that are around us, we can feel their vibration and energy. And as you were talking, I just remembered when my grandmother, she passed away. I remember that morning my mom texted me, and then I went downstairs and I have a plant, big plant downstairs. Every leaf had drops of water at the end of the leaves. And the
you.
plant was crying, and I've
Oh,
never seen that plant like that. And I couldn't believe, and I felt love in that moment from that plant. And so I'm so thankful you share these practices and that practice with connecting with your inner child. I could just imagine how you would
no.
just play
Wow.
like that. It's so beautiful. And it is also beautiful that we can become aware of these things as adults to share this love not only with ourselves now, okay, as we're going through this journey, but also with the younger versions of ourselves and with the world around us as well. Wow, I'm so grateful you shared this message here, Adria. I really, really am. So as we are wrapping up this episode, is there anything that just comes to you now as a message that everyone who's watching us needs to hear?
Mm. Yes, I think to ask how you can bring more love into your life and ask, how you can serve love and be a vessel of love and ask love to use you. And I think the more that we learn to connect with the energy of love, um, we can we can use it more in our life, and you know to remember that it's yes, I talk about love, and I'm speaking of something that feels like a is a higher vibration, but it's not to take away from the darkness as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
It's really, we are both. We are dark and light. And darkness isn't a bad thing unless we label it to be so. So we really can learn how to see darkness as an opportunity for more love. And yeah, yeah, I'm hearing
Thank
that.
you. Thank you so much for this, and thank you for your presence in this
Oh,
episode.
thank
And
you.
thank you to everyone who watched this episode. Thank you for being here with us. If you liked this episode, please like it, and subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so that you get notified every time new episodes will be posted. And check out the description for this video to find out how you can connect with Adria or myself. Take care. See you next time. Bye bye.